Not every child was happy about returning to school after the holiday break, but for one child at IPS School 31 on the south side, going back was all he wanted. That's because his return meant he could be a normal kid again. Our TV6 photojournalist Brad Forrestal captured the special moments.
This morning, the entire school lined the halls for a surprise welcome back for one of its own.
This is where he's happy at.
Third grader Anthony Das is returning after nearly 3 months of recovery following a life-changing kidney transplant. He was born prematurely, weighing just over 3 pounds, and he's experienced health challenges all of his young life. And for the past 2 years, that means that Anthony had to go regularly to Riley Hospital for Children for dialysis. In April, he was put back on the organ transplant list. And then, a day before his birthday, the family got the call, a call that would change his life forever. They found a match.
Now he doesn't have to be at the hospital 3 times a week. He doesn't have to leave school right before recess and cry. And most of all, he's here with his friends. And that's all he wanted.
He's kind, he's gentle, he's smart. You know, we're just really excited to be part of this journey in a small way with Anthony, so we want to show our support to him.
It was good. Excited.
When asked what his favorite part of school is, the small kid with the big heart had an answer that surprised no one.
Friends.
Welcome back, Anthony.
Welcome back indeed. Friendship is strong medicine. Brad Forrestal, RTV6.
Welcome back there. Good to see. All new at 6 p.m. here on RTV6. The government shutdown reaches its 17th day. Indiana families on food assistance wonder how they'll get by if it continues much longer. We look at who is impacted and how families and organizations are preparing for the worst. But first up next on the Now Indy, protecting children at the bus stop. How one state lawmaker wants to improve safety after the crash that killed 3 children 3 months ago. You're watching RTV6.
Well, here's what we have in our lineup today here on The Now. There have been a lot of questions about what's happening with taxes and refunds because of the government shutdown. We have answers on that. Also, hundreds of thousands of people in the blind community, they're turning to a volunteer-based app for sight. We have how you can help as well. It's a story you're only going to see on The Now. Also, you may be trying to eat healthier in the new year, but labels on food, they can get confusing. You always hear organic or natural. Which way should you go? We're going to clear all that up for you as well.
All right, Chris, thank you. And thank you for joining us for the Now Indy. I'm Mark Mullins. School bus stop safety vaulted to the forefront for many Indiana parents and some state lawmakers after that horrific October crash that took the lives of 3 Fulton County siblings who died crossing the street to get to their bus. Today, their state lawmaker introduced a bill to try to prevent other families from ever having to experience the same agonizing pain and tragedy. As Call 6 investigates, Paris Lubell found out, currently there are virtually no state regulations or guidance about where bus stops should be.
They're going through a nightmare that none of us can describe or even contemplate.
For months now, Senator Randy Head has been on a mission to make school bus stops safer.
We've seen the worst that can happen already in Fulton County, in my Senate district, and we want to stop that from ever happening again.
Call 6 uncovered shocking data that shows on average there are about 3,000 stop arm violations each day across the state. Now, Senate Bill number 2 is trying to help curb that growing issue. The bill has 3 main points. First, it will increase the penalties for people who blow through a stop arm. Second, it will make sure children don't have to cross a state highway to get to a bus stop. And third, it will allow schools to petition to reduce speed limits around bus stops. But will it actually work? Back in November, Call 6 found out that police rarely write tickets for stop arm violations. They often aren't in the right place at the right time to catch those violators. To help with the enforcement aspect, Representative Ed Delaney introduced legislation years ago to put stop arm cameras on buses to catch those violators, but it failed in committee. He says the problem is police actually have to catch people who blow through the stop arms, and it's impossible to put a police officer at every bus stop across the state.
I'm looking for a way to kind of humiliate people quietly.
He says he's again going to push for cameras on buses to catch those violators, but he says it's all about sending a message.
If you got a note from the prosecutor saying, you know, you're on my list because of what you've done, I'm not going to beat you up this time, but I'm going to get you next time. That note might work, so I'm leaning towards some solution like that.
During this session at the State House between the House and the Senate, both sides say there'll be a number of proposals on the table to make school bus stops safer. Paris Lubell, RTV6.
Also at the State House today, a renewed push for lawmakers to pass a statewide hate crimes law. Indiana is just one of a handful of states without one. Bills have already been introduced, and today a new coalition of business and community leaders announced a campaign to make it happen. More than 700 groups and individuals are part of the group called Indiana Forward. They say it's time for Indiana to join the group of 44 other states with protections on the books, and will mean that everyone is welcome here.
With bias-motivated crimes on the rise in our country and in our state, we must send a loud and clear message that Indiana rejects acts of hate toward any person or group of people for any reason.
So far, 2 hate crimes bills have been introduced in the House. House Speaker Brian Bosma has said in the past that the only bill that could pass his Republican caucus would be one that did not specifically mention gender identity.
Look at some of nature's beauty here. Upper left, that's in Putnam County, DePauw University, nice little orange glow. And on the upper right, that's looking west from downtown Indianapolis. Nice sunset in progress, and typically we'd say 47. What a day. Those are mild temperatures. But of course, we were at 56 just before noon. Temperatures are falling. The air is dry, which means these temperatures will have the ability to drop all the way into the 20s by morning. The west-northwest wind at 24 is going nowhere. We'll stay strong. Our peak gust in Indianapolis, 46 miles per hour. I think tonight we eliminate the upper end of the winds, and they'll gust to around 30 instead of jumping over 40 miles per hour. As you look at the radar, just a couple of showers in the western portions of Ohio. What will happen for us, we'll have a rain-snow mix potential between 9 and 11, but it'll be a pretty thin line. Temperatures getting colder in the northwest, pushing to the southeast, and that will continue. The nose of the cold air sits up in the upper Mississippi Valley, and it's pointing right at us. Our temperatures will be in the teens when we get up, not tomorrow morning, but on Thursday morning. There's your wind forecast this evening. It stays howling out of the northwest, continuing to drive the colder temperatures in. Here's our game plan. We'll be in the 30s by 11 o'clock. Again, a 30% chance for some rain showers. You may see a snowflake or two as well.
Thanks, Kevin. And coming up new at 6, new concerns for veterans tonight, as one leader says the state's mistake cost veterans valuable services. Call 6 Investigates is digging into who did not get help.
Well, as the federal shutdown prepares to enter what will be its 19th day tomorrow, many workers are starting to take matters into their own hands to try and bring in a paycheck. The Now's Chris Welch has their stories.
Furloughed workers and those working without pay are coming up with all kinds of ways to make ends meet. Workers like Julie Burr.
So right now I'm relying on that.
That is a GoFundMe page the Department of Transportation contract worker was advised to set up to help her offset the lack of a paycheck.
I made a goal of approximately 2 months of salary because I wasn't sure how long this would last, and I have met my goal, so I appreciate everyone helping with that. That's going to help get us through. It helped with my January rent, and more than likely will have to help with February rent also.
One of its donors writing, "It's heartbreaking to see ego wars of billionaires rob the average person of their salaries." Uber drivers like Clifton Monroe feeling the pinch as well.
Whenever the government is shut down, it really affects us.
Driver Nate Morrell says government employees are usually some of Uber's biggest customers in D.C., but now he says they're also his competition.
With the government shutdown, you have more people that are working for the government doing Uber, and the full-time Uber drivers, that's really affecting us too in our money.
And it's also a period of great uncertainty for food banks, like this one in Connecticut, where 10% of their goods come from federal dollars. Dollars they worry may stop coming.
If the SNAP program gets disrupted, we can't keep up with the need. We would not be able to make up for the difference.
Peanut butter and jelly.
The food bank's manager offering a sentiment likely shared by the hundreds of thousands of workers currently going without paychecks and the many more who depend on them.
It's a nervous time. It's an unsettling time. It's a very anxious time.
Reporting for The Now, I'm Chris Welch.
All right, Chris, thank you. And you can expect to see more ads for e-cigarettes on TV later this year. Makers of Juul launching a series of new commercials that are supposed to be geared towards adults. They'll feature testimonials from former smokers who claim they quit cigarettes by switching to Juul. Now, the company's trying to clean up its image after getting called out by the government because their products are so popular with teens. All right, next in our lineup, there have been a lot of questions about what's happening with taxes and with refunds because of the government shutdown. We're going to answer those questions for you next.
$6 each when you buy 2.
Well, Sears is getting another reprieve from liquidation. This news comes today after its chairman and largest shareholder revised his bid to save the iconic brand. That bid could keep 425 stores open and save tens of thousands of jobs, according to a hearing today in bankruptcy court in New York. The bid is not official and will be evaluated in an auction next week, where it will compete with other bids from liquidators looking to shut it down. There are no more Sears stores in Indianapolis. Sears has been in business for 126 years.
Let's start the Now news feed with some news on an improvement in the fight against cancer. The American Cancer Society says deaths from cancer dropped 27% over a quarter century, and they say we're talking about 2.6 million fewer deaths from cancer. Well, you do hear a lot about high-fat diets. Doctors, they're concerned about the impact it can have on someone long-term. They did tests on rats and found the high-fat diet led to a major boost in blood pressure. Well, you want to be careful about bragging on dating apps, and boy, did a woman in Oklahoma find that one out the hard way. So she bragged to a man that she matched to on Bumble that she had just poached a deer on her ranch that was out of season. Now, that is illegal. Problem is, after she sent a picture, it turns out that the person she had matched with and was talking to was a game warden. Yeah, the next day authorities showed up at her house. Well, the start of tax season, it is just a few weeks away. And despite the shutdown, the government says it will be issuing tax refunds. The Now's Andy Taylor telling us why we should get a head start on filing.
Hey, Chris. Well, this season, a lot of tax professionals are saying if there was ever a time to use a software or enlist in a tax professional, it is now. I spoke with Michelle McCarthy. She's a tax law professional, and she gave a few reasons why we should all file early. First, even though the government says your tax refunds won't be affected by the shutdown, she says that can always change. Plus, the sooner you file, the sooner you'll get your return. And the IRS suggests you also file electronically to get a faster return, too. Again, this is the first tax year after the new tax law bill was implemented, so we are all about to see how this will affect us. Michelle says once we see that, you should amend your withholdings accordingly. And then experts predict families will be impacted the most because of the reform, which means families are most likely to owe money. And if you are single or married without children, you might actually benefit from the changes. And if you really want to get a head start, you can work with an agent or software systems to file your taxes before opening day, which is Monday, January 28th. But they won't actually get sent in until the IRS systems are officially open that Monday. But at least they're finished.
Yeah, got that right, Annie. Thank you. Let's get back to our lineup. Hundreds of thousands of people in the blind community, they're turning to a volunteer-based app, Foresight. Well, you can help out with this as well. We're going to show you next. It's a story you'll only see here on The Now.
Almost safer
and save you some time.
Perceptions and stereotypes of people's weight are affecting employees in the workplace. One study from the University of Pennsylvania found that higher a person's body mass index, the more likely they are to face discrimination. Study shows people who are overweight tend to be seen as people with no self-control, and that translates to a lack of leadership skills. Now, this can hurt their chances of being hired or being promoted. Now, equal opportunity employment laws make it illegal to discriminate. Nowhere in the law does it describe weight or physical appearance. Only a few places like Michigan, San Francisco, and DC actually protect overweight people from discrimination. Now, psychiatry experts speculate that there aren't more protections